are moments in life when a person looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the face staring back. Moments when your heart feels heavy, your purpose feels blurry, and the world feels painfully silent. You wake up, but you don't feel awake. You breathe, but you don't feel alive. You move through the day, but you're not really there. It's like walking through a fog. Everyone else seems to know where they're going, but you're just trying not to fall apart. Maybe life hit you unexpectedly. Maybe your heart broke in a way you never saw coming. Maybe you lost someone or something, or even yourself. Maybe you sinned and the guilt refuses to let you breathe. Maybe you reached a point where you prayed and prayed, but nothing seemed to change. And now you wonder whether Allah still hears you. And in that quiet confusion, a whisper rises inside you. Where do I go? What do I do now? This is the moment, right here, where many people take the wrong turn. They run toward distractions, toward noise, toward temporary comfort that only deepens the emptiness. But there is a place, a divine place, that was never meant to be temporary. It was never meant to disappoint you, never meant to abandon you, never meant to break you. There is a book that speaks when the world goes silent. There is a guidance that holds your heart when your heart can't hold itself. There is a light that cuts through fog thicker than your deepest pain. And that light is the Quran. If you are lost, if you are drowning, if you are falling apart, return to the Quran. Not to read it like a ritual, not to recite it like a habit, but to live it, to let it pull you back from the edge, to let it remind you who you are, who created you, and who will always be with you. When life shatters your sense of direction, you don't always realize it immediately. Sometimes it begins subtly. One decision you regret, one disappointment you didn't expect, one prayer you whispered with hope that seemed to fade unanswered. Slowly your heart becomes heavier, your mind becomes clouded, and the path ahead becomes harder to see. You start questioning why things happened the way they did, and your soul begins to wander. It feels like you're walking with an invisible weight on your chest, trying to find a place where you can finally breathe again. And in that moment of confusion, you desperately search for something, anything, that can help you understand where to go next. That's where the Quran enters, not as a book you recite out of habit, but as a divine compass designed to guide you when everything inside you feels scattered. When you open the Quran in this state, the first thing it gives you is clarity. Not the kind of clarity that solves every problem instantly, but the kind that brings your heart back to life. The kind that makes you pause and feel like Allah is speaking directly to you. The verses you read begin to cut through the chaos inside your mind. They remind you that your struggles are not random. They are not punishments. They are not signs that you have been abandoned. They are part of the journey written for you before you were even born. And with every verse, you feel a small shift inside your heart, a softening, a realignment, a moment of calm you haven't felt in a long time. The Quran doesn't just give you direction, it gives you purpose. It tells you why you're here, why you're tested, why you feel lost at times. It shows you that even the strongest believers before you faced moments of confusion, fear, and uncertainty. Yet they always found their way back through the words of Allah. And you begin to see that your pain is not a dead end, it's a reminder. A reminder that the path of this world will never be straight, and that your heart needs something stronger than your plans, your efforts, or your emotions. It needs divine guidance. It needs revelation. It needs a map that does not change with circumstances, a direction that does not shift with the storms of life. The more you read, the more you feel yourself returning to stability, returning to hope, returning to a sense of inner peace that the world could never give you. The Quran becomes the compass that restores your direction, not by showing you every step ahead, but by showing you the one who controls every step. It lifts you out of the fog and places you on a path built on faith, courage, and understanding. And suddenly, being lost doesn't feel like an ending anymore. It feels like an invitation to rediscover who you are through the words of the one who created you, guided you, and promised never to leave you wandering as long as you return to Him. There are wounds inside you that no one sees, no one hears, and no one fully understands. You carry them quietly, tucked behind your smiles and buried beneath your daily responsibilities. You move through life as if everything is normal, but deep inside, there are parts of you that are still bleeding, moments that broke you, mistakes that haunt you, memories that still ache no matter how much time has passed. And even when people ask, "Are you okay?" you hesitate, because how do you explain a pain that doesn't have clear edges? How do you describe something you can barely understand yourself? This is the kind of pain the Quran heals, not the obvious wounds that everyone can see. Those are easy. Anyone can help you with those. The Quran heals the invisible wounds you've learned to hide. The ones that resurface at night when the world is quiet. The ones that make your heart suddenly feel heavy for reasons you can't articulate. The ones that show up in your prayers as silent tears you try to wipe away before anyone notices. These are the wounds that only Allah truly understands, because He is the one who saw them happen. He is the one who knows the depth of every hurt, the story behind every scar, and the intention behind every mistake. When you return to the Quran carrying these quiet wounds, you don't need to explain anything. The Quran speaks to the part of your soul that even you struggle to express. It comforts you without asking for details. It acknowledges your pain without requiring you to justify it. As you read, something inside you begins to soften. The tightness in your chest eases, the heaviness in your heart lightens. And for the first time in a long time, you feel understood, you feel seen, you feel held. Every verse becomes like a gentle hand placed over your heart. It reminds you that your sorrow is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign that you are human. It reminds you that your guilt does not make you unworthy, it makes you capable of returning stronger. It reminds you that your heartbreak is not a punishment, it is a cleansing that brings you closer to Allah. The Quran acknowledges that pain is part of the journey, but it also promises that no pain goes unnoticed and no tear falls without purpose. The Quran heals not by erasing what happened, but by transforming what remains. It replaces bitterness with patience, guilt with repentance, fear with trust, sadness with hope. It teaches you to breathe again, to believe again, to rise again. It reconnects you with the one who is closer to you than your own thoughts, the one who hears your whisper even when you're too tired to speak, the one who knows your heart better than anyone else ever will. And slowly, without you even realizing it, the wounds inside you begin to close. The pain loses its power. The past loses its grip. You begin to feel whole where you once felt broken. Because when you return to the Quran, you return to the source of healing that was written not for the body, but for the soul. A healing that lasts, a healing that transforms, a healing that brings you back to life from the inside out. There comes a point in life when you look at yourself and realize you've drifted so far from who you used to be, or who you were meant to become. Maybe the world changed you. Maybe pain hardened you. Maybe disappointment made you fearful. Maybe sins weighed you down until your heart became numb. And day after day, you feel yourself becoming someone you don't recognize. Your smile doesn't feel real anymore, your energy doesn't feel pure, and your dreams don't feel alive. You start living on autopilot, waking up, working, scrolling, sleeping, but not living. You know there is a better version of you buried somewhere inside, but you don't know how to reach it again. This is where the Quran restores you. It doesn't just guide you outwardly, it reshapes you from the inside. It brings you back to the person Allah intended when He created you. When you immerse yourself in its verses, you begin to feel a transition happening gently and gradually. The harshness inside you softens. The confusion begins to settle. The heaviness you carried starts to melt. And the person you thought you lost begins to wake up again like a flower blooming after a long winter. The Quran reminds you of your identity, not the one society gives you, but the one Allah gave you. You are not defined by your past, your failures, your sins, or your insecurities. You are defined by the purity Allah created in you, the strength He placed within you, and the purpose He wrote for you long before you entered this world. When you read the Quran with a sincere heart, it doesn't just remind you of these truths. It begins to carve them back into your soul. It teaches you humility by telling the stories of those who rose not because they were perfect, but because they were sincere. It teaches you courage by reminding you that even the strongest were once afraid. It teaches you patience by showing you how every hardship has a divine ending. It teaches you gratitude by highlighting blessings you never noticed. And slowly, your character begins to shift, not because the world changed, but because you changed. The Quran realigns your priorities. It cleans your intentions. It strengthens your relationship with Allah. It makes you want to pray not because you must, but because your soul feels empty without it. It makes you avoid sins not out of fear of punishment, but out of love for the one who forgave you countless times. It makes you want to do good, to be gentle, to help others, to speak truth, to live with purpose. And with every verse, you begin to grow into the version of yourself that Allah always knew you could become. The transformation is subtle at first. You notice you're more patient than before. You react to hardship differently. You become more reflective, more centered, more grounded. You start forgiving people more easily. Your heart doesn't cling to the world as tightly. Your soul feels lighter, freer, more alive. And then one day, something happens. You realize you're no longer responding to life from a place of fear or pain, but from a place of faith. This is what the Quran does. It resurrects the part of you that hardship buried. It removes the layers of confusion and pain until your true self begins to shine again. It reconnects you with your purpose, your values, your mission. And without you even realizing it, you become a better believer, a better human being, a better version of yourself, just by returning to the book that was always meant to guide your transformation. There are moments in life when it feels like you've completely fallen apart. Moments when you've made mistakes you can't take back, when your heart breaks in ways you never expected. When life pushes you to your knees and you're convinced you'll never stand again. You look at your own reflection and wonder how you reached this point, how you allowed yourself to fall so far, how everything you tried to hold together slipped right through your hands. And in those moments you start believing that maybe you're too broken, too flawed, too far gone to ever return to the path you once walked with confidence. But the Quran tells a different story. It teaches you that breaking is not the end. Falling is not failure. Being lost is not final. Every prophet faced moments when their strength nearly collapsed. Every believer experienced nights of fear, regret, and heartbreak. Every heart has shattered in ways no one else ever saw. And yet each one of them rose again. Not because they were perfect, but because they returned to Allah. When you return to the Quran, it gives you the strength to stand up again, even when you feel like you have nothing left inside you. The Quran doesn't expect you to come back perfect, it expects you to come back sincere. When you open its pages after a long period of distance, you don't feel judged, you feel welcomed. Its verses don't remind you of how far you've fallen. They remind you of how far Allah can lift you. You begin to understand that every mistake you made was not a dead end, but a detour meant to bring you closer to humility, closer to gratitude, closer to seeking Allah with a heart that's softer and more aware. As you read, you begin to feel strength returning to you, but not the kind of strength that the world glorifies. Not the strength to pretend you're okay, not the strength to hide your pain, not the strength to suppress your emotions. It's the strength to be honest with yourself. The strength to rise after falling. The strength to walk again with a wounded heart, knowing Allah is walking with you. The strength to believe that Allah sees you not as the person you were at your lowest moment, but as the person you can become through Him. The Quran teaches you resilience by showing you that no matter how broken you are, Allah's mercy is always greater. It reminds you that you're allowed to fall as many times as your heart needs, as long as you keep returning. It tells you that Allah loves those who turn back, those who cry to Him, those who keep trying even when they feel weak. And with each verse, you begin to rebuild. Your trust grows, your hope strengthens, your heart softens. Slowly, you start taking steps again, small ones at first, but each one guided by a light you thought you lost. You begin to feel capable again, worthy again, forgiven again. The Quran becomes the hand that lifts you, the voice that encourages you, the light that guides you out of darkness. And you realize something profound. The strength you were searching for was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to return to the one who placed it inside you. When you come back to the Quran, you don't just rise, you transform. You rise with more wisdom, more patience, more humility. You rise knowing that every fall shaped you, every hardship refined you, and every setback prepared you for a stronger comeback. And you rise with a heart that knows, as long as you return to Allah, you will never remain broken. When life becomes heavy, when the world feels confusing, when your heart begins to drift, remember this: you were never meant to navigate your journey alone. The one who created your heart also sent down the guidance to heal it, strengthen it, and lead it back to clarity. The Quran is not just a book you read, it is a companion that walks with you, a light that finds you in darkness, and a reminder that no matter how lost you feel, Allah always leaves a path open for your return. If you've been struggling, if you've been searching, if you've been quietly carrying pain, come back to the words that were sent for you. Let the Quran speak to you, teach you, rebuild you, and bring you back to the person you were always meant to be. Life will continue to test you, but with the Quran in your heart, you will rise from every storm with more strength, more faith, and more purpose than before. If this message touched your heart, share it, spread it. And don't forget to subscribe for more uplifting reminders. Your one click might be the reminder someone else desperately needs today.